last 2 years, 4 vampire films have premiered on the silver screen. And of those 4, only 1 has a 5-star review on my Letterboxd. 2024's Abigail is a delightful addition to the vampire genre. It is gory in a way that both awes and disgusts. The moments of tension are stretched well. The jump scares never feel cheap. The moments of horror are done very purposefully. The story doesn't take itself too seriously, but it is earnest in its storytelling. This allows the comedic parts of the storyline to land just as well as the dramatic parts. You could say they land as gracefully as a ballerina after a jeté. Because yes, Abigail is a movie about a vampire ballerina.
Just a game to her.
Obsessed. Iconic. I love it. The performances in this film are very well done. The film features Scream Queens Melissa Barrera and Catherine Newton, as well as Dan Stevens, Kevin Durand, and Giancarlo Esposito. This is also Angus Cloud's final film role, and the film is dedicated in his memory. But the standout performance for this film is for sure Alicia Weir as Abigail. She is holding her own against these much older and much more experienced actors. She perfectly pivots between playing a frightened little girl and a hundreds of years old conniving vampire. I never doubted her performance for a moment. She plays the role of Abigail with such indulgence, it is constantly entertaining. This just continues the trend of Irish actors being top dog, and in my book, Alicia Weir joins the likes of Cillian Murphy and Saoirse Ronan, Colin Farrell, and Io Adebari. Abigail is a film I've been waiting to see since I first heard about it. I remember watching the trailer for this movie a few months back in my apartment building's parking garage during car time. Car time is a period of time where I sit in my car after getting to my destination and I scroll social media and check my emails while I gather the courage to exit the vehicle and enter the building. It was during car time on January 11th, 2024 that I watched the trailer for Abigail and I was immediately hooked. I could not wait to see this film. I knew that I would be seated the day it released, and I was. I am nothing if not a woman of my words. In short, I highly recommend this movie. It's a fun movie. It is a fun movie to watch. Baby. This ends the spoiler-free section of this review. So if you're here because you've already seen the movie, or you're the type of person that likes to watch video content about movies that you have never or potentially will never see, then welcome, continue watching. But if you have plans to see Abigail, you should leave and then come back to this video after you've seen the film. Okay, you've been warned. Spoilers ahead. I'm not going to do a plot summary because, presumably you're here because you have already seen the film. You know the plot, so you'll understand when I reference scenes from the movie out of context because you and I are working from the same source material. Okay? Great. This film is gory in a very fun way. Every time a vampire character exploded, I was gasping and giggling in the same breath. It's a bloodbath, but in a way that's kinda camp. The characters are fun to watch. You know it's a horror movie going in, so you kind of expect that most of the characters are going to die. We receive just enough information to care about them, but not enough that we're heartbroken when they die. It's something you expect. You see it coming. There are 2 things with the script of this movie that really won it over for me. The first is that this movie is in it for the long haul. We do not have any inkling of vampiric shenanigans until about halfway through the film. I know the trailer had vampire stuff in it, so you know that there are going to be vampires, but the first half of the film plays it totally straight. They've kidnapped this girl for ransom. There's seemingly someone else in the house picking them off one by one. And then it's revealed that it's Abigail that's been killing them because, surprise, she's a vampire. I don't think there's a way the studios could have properly promoted this film without revealing that Abigail is a vampire in the trailer. But if there had been a way for that to happen somehow, that would have made the reveal of her being a vampire about halfway through the film very interesting. Which, if you'll allow me a tangent, is kind of how I felt about Last Voyage of the Demeter. They had to, advertise it as a Dracula movie, but I do kind of wish it had just been sold as like a crime on the high seas thriller. Like, someone on the crew is killing all the other crew members for some reason. We don't know why, and we don't know who. And then the twist reveal would be that it wasn't a member of the crew. The killings were done by Dracula, who is secretly on board the ship. But I imagine putting a vampire in your trailer helps with pre-sale tickets, so, I'm sympathetic to it. The other thing the script gets right is the swearing. I feel like this is such a minor thing, but it really does help the dialogue flow and feel natural. When a line of dialogue just, has a swear thrown into it for the sake of having a swear thrown into it. So the fact that the swearing flows really naturally within the dialogue, the characters are reacting appropriately to vampire attacks by dropping F-bombs left and right. I liked it. It made it feel more genuine. It made it feel like these are real people reacting how real people would react in this situation. So this film has a few references or Easter eggs, I guess, to other plot paralleling stories, and I really liked that, so I want to talk about it. Throughout the film, Abigail dances to the main theme from Swan Lake, and she spends much of the second act of the film in a white tutu outfit with a feather headpiece, a swan costume. Now, this could have been done because that music is public domain, and the general public is also familiar with Swan Lake as a ballet. Thank you, Barbie, and also Natalie Portman. Someone who has never seen the ballet Swan Lake is still likely to recognize the main theme from it as being the main theme from the ballet Swan Lake in a way that the average viewer is probably less likely to recognize the Rose Waltz from Sleeping Beauty or La Esmeralda. However, I like to think it was more purposeful than that. Swan Lake is a ballet about a woman, Odette, who has been bewitched by the sorcerer Rothbart to live as a swan during the day, her true form only being revealed at night. Parallel that to a vampire, who is also only their quote-unquote true self at night. The third act of the ballet is about deception and how looks can be deceiving. This act has guests arriving at a ballet where Siegfried, Odette's love interest, is supposed to choose a bride. Rothbart arrives at the ball with his daughter Odile, who has been transformed or bewitched to look like Odette. While Odile might resemble the pure-hearted Odette, this is merely a trick. Much like how Abigail might resemble a naive and innocent child, but she's really a bloodthirsty vampire who's been alive for centuries. The theme from Swan Lake is, as far as I can tell, the only composition from the ballet present within the movie. The soundtrack for Abigail was composed by Brian Tyler, whose work you might be familiar with from Constantine, 7 of the Fast and the Furious movies, and Crazy Rich Asians, just to name a few. The soundtrack is really well done. I was sitting in the theater I can't wait to listen to this on the way home. It sounds really cool. But alas, it is not available for streaming yet. Universal Pictures, get on that. Release the Abigail soundtrack. When Abigail is locked in the elevator with Frank left alone to guard her, she says she'll tell him how to escape the manor in exchange for him unlocking the elevator door, and letting her go. She tells him that in the library there is a secret passage that is opened via a copy of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. Okay, spoilers for And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. It's one of my favorite novels of hers, so if you have any plans to read it and you don't want to have any of the twists throughout the story revealed, just jump ahead to the timestamp on screen. Okay, spoilers for a novel published 85 years ago. And Then There Were None tells the story of 8 people arriving on an island after having been invited there unexpectedly. They are told by the housekeeper and butler on the island that their hosts Mr. and Mrs. Owen have not yet arrived. After dinner the first night, a record is played that accuses the 10 people on the island of having committed murder. Over the next few days, everyone on the island is killed. The end of the story reveals that one of the guests on the island, Justice Wargrave, had arranged to invite the 9 other guests to the island. These were individuals that he felt had escaped punishment for crimes committed. So after receiving a diagnosis of a terminal illness, he decided to serve justice for these crimes how he saw fit. So it's a story about a group of strangers being brought to an isolated location under false pretenses where they are slowly killed off one by one because of a wrongdoing they have not received punishment for. And that's like the plot of this movie. People brought together under false pretenses to receive punishment for crimes they've committed yet escaped justice for. It's a nice little reference. Christie's work no doubt inspired the film, and I mean, this Easter egg is basically confirming that, and I think it's a nice way to kind of clue the audience in on that. This movie was filmed in Dublin, Ireland in the summer of 2023. However, filming was suspended for a few months due to the SAG-AFTRA strike, but it wrapped filming in December of that same year. The film is directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, who had previously worked together on the 5th and 6th installments of the Scream franchise. Side note, Melissa Barrera, who appeared in the 5th and 6th Scream movies, is also in this film. Scream 5 and 6 alumni Guy Busick, along with Stephen Shields, wrote the screenplay. This film began development as an adaptation of 1936's Dracula's Daughter. Initially, it was going to share the same title as its source material. However, unlike 1936's Dracula's Daughter, this film would be a standalone. Many of the original Universal monster movies exist more or less within the same canon, with sequels and crossovers abounding. However, following the financial failure of 2017's The Mummy, which was intended as an introductory film to like a whole Universal monster cinematic universe, the idea of a single continuity with these films seems to have been abandoned, which I personally like. That's how we can have films like The Invisible Man and Renfield be tonally different and exist with their own plot lines and stories without the need to shoehorn in references to other movies and other monsters. The stories get to be self-contained, which I think really works in their favor. While this movie is an adaptation of 1936's Dracula's Daughter, there really aren't any similarities between Dracula's Daughter and Abigail. None of the plot beats are the same. As far as I could tell, there weren't even little nods or Easter eggs to the former within the latter. None of the characters even share the same names, which is like the easiest way to pay homage to a source material. Full disclosure, I didn't even know that this film was supposed to be a Dracula's Daughter adaptation until I began writing the script for this video. It stands completely on its own. And it's not even a situation like with Cloverfield Paradox, where they had an idea for a movie and then decided to ham-fist in an existing IP in an attempt to garner more attention. Because Abigail has nothing to do with Dracula. Again, no little references or Easter eggs, no little nods to Dracula, no plot parallels, no character name overlap. This movie really exists as its own vampire ballerina film. And the main theme of the movie, if it were to have like a moral or whatever, is that it's hard to be a parent, but showing up is half the battle. From the initial trailer, the only thing we know about Joey is that she is a mother. She has a son.
Do you have any kids? I have a little boy.
In the film, she says that she is participating in this kidnapping so that with her cut of the $7 million, she can start over and create a new life for herself and her son. She clearly has a lot of remorse about abandoning him when her narcotics addiction worsened, and her motivation for surviving throughout the film is to be able to go and see her son, Caleb. She wants to be a better mother for him. Abigail even uses Caleb as motivation at the end of the film to convince Joey to team up with her to fight Frank. She tells Joey that they need to kill Frank so that she can be reunited with her son. Joey's love and motivation to be with her son contrasts Abigail's relationship with her own father. The manor is littered with sculptures and paintings depicting a tall, hooded figure and a smaller girl. Obviously, artistic renditions of Lazar and Abigail. And Abigail says that she was turned in the manor, which implies that these artistic additions were put in later. Potentially an act of love on her father's part, immortalizing the two in art as well as in life. But Abigail herself says that her father doesn't care about her, that at one point he wanted to be a father and he wanted a daughter, but over time lost interest. After the team of survivors trap Abigail in the elevator, Joey taunts her, saying that Abigail carries out these killings at the request of her father in hopes of earning his favor again. She's killed presumably hundreds at his request in the hopes of receiving his love and attention, but clearly this hasn't worked for her. And at the end of the film, when Lazar is about to attack Joey, Abigail uses the fact that not only did Joey save her life, but she was present to do so when Lazar wasn't, in order to pressure her father into letting Joey go. So if this film were to have a moral, I think it's important to show up for your kids is an okay one for it to have. And in the case of Abigail, where although she looks like a child, she's technically like an adult. I mean, she's hundreds of years old, and you don't stop being a parent when your kids turn 18. You're never too old to want the love and approval of your parents. Even hundreds of years old vampires just want their fathers to say that they're proud of them and they love them. In conclusion, I give 2024's Abigail 5 stars out of a possible 5 stars. In my ranking system, this means that if I were deciding on a movie to watch by myself, I would potentially choose this one. The story is compelling, the tension holds when it needs to, which maximizes unease, the jump scares land successfully and don't feel overused, the comedic elements balance out the drama and don't feel like they weaken the plot. The set design is beautiful, the costuming informs us about the characters, the soundtrack is gorgeous. The whole cast kills it, but once again, the kudos mainly go to Alicia Weir, who is able to convincingly go from scared little girl to centuries-old vampire at the drop of a hat. If you haven't seen this film yet, sorry about all the spoilers, why did you watch this first? But I personally think the enjoyment in a film is in the journey, not the destination. So you should still go and see this film. And I can't wait for it to be released on streaming so that I can rewatch it. Or maybe I'll just go see it in theaters again. I'm an AMC A-lister, baby. That's right, I can see up to 3 films a week for no additional charge. Yeah! If you enjoyed this little cinema review, be sure to give the video a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. It's free. Subscribe now to join the Clout Convoy. I've talked about movies and TV shows on the channel before, but this is the first time I've done a proper sit-down review of a film that is a new release. So let me know what you thought about that in the comments down below, and if you like this kind of content, maybe there will be more film reviews in the future. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. Okay, bye! Abigail was distributed by Universal Pictures, which means there is a chance we could see some Abigail content at Halloween Horror Nights this year. I think they usually do 2 to 3 IP houses each year, and for sure, one of them is going to be Five Nights at Freddy's. But if the other one could maybe be Abigail? Universal Creative, make it happen. Abigail House at Halloween Horror Nights Orlando 2024, please and thank you.